Miss Nancy here, and I'm back with some fabulous young adult novels. I have a whole bunch of them because I just couldn't decide what to show you. So my first book is called Splinters. It's a sci-fi. It's by F.J.R. Tichenel and Matt Carter, who are a husband and wife team. Matt Carter has written a bunch of sci-fi horror novels, but his wife, this is her first effort. And I would describe this as sort of an invasion of the body snatchers set in a little bit more modern times. And it takes place in a very small town called Prospero. And unlike Roswell, New Mexico, which kind of capitalizes on its alien claim to fame, Prospero tries to keep its connection to the aliens very, very quiet and under wraps. So there's a boy named Ben, and he had lived in the town a while back but went away. So he comes back now and he notices that something is very strange with this town. While he's there, one of his friends from growing up, Haley, disappears. And they can't find her, and they decide that she's dead. Well, on the day of her memorial service, she reappears. And now Ben has to figure out what is going on. There is a girl named Mina, who is the lone person in the town who is trying to fight the alien takeover. So she is the resistance fighter. There are a lot of red herring characters in here, so you never really know who's the bad guy and who's the good guy. And the story is told in alternating chapters between Ben's perspective and Mina's perspective, so you get a very different feel. Mina has a very unique brain wiring, which makes her perfect for the resistance fighter, and you can see it in her voice as she's telling the story. There's a lot of creepy descriptions about the alien creatures. They're called Splinters, and some of them take animal form, some of them take human form, and they morph in between. It's very scary in that way. And the story ends in a way that requires a sequel. But the only thing that I couldn't figure out was why the aliens were taking so long to conquer Earth. It's revealed why they're doing it, but why they're taking so long to do it, I'm hoping the next book will tell us that. It was great writing, very exciting, and if you like sci-fi and a little bit of horror, this is the book for you. So I invite you to try Splinters by F.J.R. Tichenel and Matt Carter. My next book was the funnest book I read. It is such a fun novel, and it has this really weird title. It's called The Devil's Intern by Donna Hosey. Here's the plot. Mitchell Johnson is 17, and he has been hit by a bus and died, and he ends up in hell. Well, he finds out that just about everyone is in hell, and it's kind of like Earth. There's all these corporations, there's lots of bureaucracy, there's email, there's cell phones, there's neighborhoods, there's jobs. The devil's office is the Oval Office, and he never comes out of it. And Mitchell gets a job as an intern for the devil, and so the fun begins. The devil is mad because God is not taking enough people into heaven, and hell is on the verge of bankruptcy. They can't afford all these people to come into hell. So Mitchell's immediate boss, Septimus, has figured out a way to solve that problem with a time-traveling device. So he's going to send some devils back in time to fix the situation. But Mitchell sees another use for this time-traveling device. He sees a way for him and his 3 friends to stop their deaths. And that's where the fun and the seriousness comes in. Each of them has to make a decision about whether to change history, alter history, by stopping their death. They steal the device and they escape, and then they go to each person's past to make that decision. I loved Hosey's writing, especially because she used just about every cliche there is out there regarding hell, and that was really fun. There's a tongue-in-cheek feel to this book in the beginning, but then when the time traveling starts, it gets very serious. Facing your life and the idea of changing your life is very serious. And so it's interesting to see how each character reacts to it. Mitchell is the most complicated character of all, and he struggles with his decision. So Hosey has him grappling with relationship questions as he tries to decide, and I think it will speak to teens in a very unique way. So try the fun and the seriousness of The Devil's Intern by Donna Hosey. My next book is by Amy Reed. It's called Damage, and Amy Reed is the author of many realistic fiction YA novels where the characters are dealing with problems in their lives. So if you think of like Ellen Hopkins, who writes those types of stories in verse, Reed does it in prose form. This one is a road trip novel, and there's all kinds of road trip novels in YA literature today. John Green has made a whole career of it. But if I were to compare A Fault in Our Stars to Damaged, I would vote for Damaged. There are two best friends, Kinsey and Camille, and they have planned their entire lives from the time they were little girls. They're going to get married to the best boys, they're going to live on the same block, their kids will all be friends, and it will be perfect, perfect, perfect. But then there's a car accident, and Kinsey is driving. Camille dies, but it's not Kinsey's fault. So Camille is dead. Kinsey and Camille's boyfriend Hunter survive, but they don't survive well on an emotional and a psychological level. In fact, they both unravel. Their individual family circumstances contribute to that. Kinsey is very stoic. She tries to hold it all in. She's obsessed with control. Every night she tries to stop the accident in her dreams and of course fails every night. And then she begins to be haunted by Camille's ghost, who hurls insults at her. Hunter's way of dealing with the whole situation is that he just spends every day drunk and just walks around on autopilot. One day, though, they both decide to flee their little Michigan town and drive to San Francisco. So it is on this road trip where they deal with a lot of their grief, a lot of their loss, and trying to figure out how to accept what has happened. It's not a paranormal novel, despite this ghost type of issue. It's really more of psychological allegory. There's lots that happens on the trip. There is a character named Terry who appears very briefly on this road trip, but I think he is very important to the story and very pivotal to the plot. So when you read it, see what you think about Terry and what he means to the whole thing. It is a marvelous novel. It's well written, and it ends, well, I'm not going to tell you how it ends. You need to read it for yourself. So try Damaged by Amy Reed. The next novel is a paranormal novel, and it's called Suspicion by Alexandra Monier. It's like a paranormal Downton Abbey set in modern times, with a bit of The Prince and the Pauper and Rebecca thrown in for good measure. There's a character named Imogen, and she's an American. She's third in line to inherit Rockford Manor in England. She also has a paranormal power, a paranormal connection to the four basic elements, earth, wind, fire, and water. But that does not come to life unless she's at the manor. So during one summer visit, her parents are killed in a horrific fire, as are her aunt and uncle. And then later on, her cousin is killed, and then her grandfather dies, and so she ends up the Duchess of the Manor. So she goes back to England to take control of the property, and she is unaware of the truth of all the deaths that have occurred, and she eventually uncovers it. There's all this Downton Abbey tensions between upstairs and downstairs. There's a romance with a boy from an estate farther down the road, and there's a lot of dark Gothic aspects to this tale. Imogen has to solve those mysteries, and she also is called upon to use her power to save others' lives. Munir is a newer YA author. She's also a blogger and a musician. And she says she was really heavily influenced by Alfred Hitchcock and Daphne du Maurier, who wrote Rebecca. So check it out and see if you like it. I really did, and I'm usually not one for paranormal, but I loved this one, Suspicion by Alexandra Munir. Have you ever had a book where you loved it, but you didn't know why? Well, this was one such book for me. This is the way I felt about The Ghosts of Heaven by Marcus Sedgwick. I love the writing, I love the characters, I love the story, I love the interconnectedness of all of it, but I don't know exactly why I loved it. And I think about this book a lot as I go through the day. Marcus Sedgwick is a very long-time YA author. He's written many YA books. For this one, he chose to write 4 different stories, and they all involve 2 things. One, the spiral, which occurs everywhere in nature, and the purest number, which is called phi, which is 0.618 ... It's also called the golden ratio. And phi has applications in math, in science, in art, in music, even in the world of finance. And I don't claim to understand all of that, but it was really cool to read about. So he also says in the beginning that you can read the stories in any order that you want, not just a linear from one to another. You can start with the last one and then move to the second one and then go to the third and then start with the first. It doesn't matter. I chose to read them 1, 2, 3, 4, but I could see by the time I got to the 4th one that yes, you could read them in any order. They are all connected in a really cool way. So the first story is told in verse, and it's about a girl during the cave dweller days, and she finds the spiral on the cave walls and in nature. And the second story takes place in the 17th and 18th century England during the witch hunt period, where spirals are everywhere, including the villagers' funeral practices. And then the third story takes place in the late 19th, early 20th century, involving a doctor who is trying to treat patients in an insane asylum, and one of the patients is deathly afraid of spirals. The 4th one is a sci-fi one. There's a ship bound for a new Earth, and it is spiraling through space, and disaster awaits. You have to try to figure out what your connection is to the spiral and what your connection is to the stories, and see how you feel about it. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? Are they important? Are they useless? Whatever. It is a challenging read. It's not a beach read, but I invite you to give it a try and then let me know what you think. It's called Ghosts of Heaven by Marcus Sedgwick. Now, the last 2 books that I have, I tend to offer these to readers as a pair, because they both cover the same subject area, and they deal with 2 different sides of the same subject area. So I'll start with the first, and this is called The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia Hand. The subject matter of these 2 books is suicide, and which is a very touchy subject, but I think it's important to bring to life, especially with the rate of teen suicide these days. I'm going to read you a quote from this book. It says, "You think you know what life has in store for you. You think you're prepared. You think you can handle it, and then boom, like a thunderclap, something comes out at you out of nowhere and catches you off guard." And that's what's going on in this book. In the Last Time We Say Goodbye, the characters we meet are the survivors of suicide, the family members of someone who has taken his life. The narrator is Lex, who's trying to come to terms with her brother who has taken his life. She's in therapy. She's writing a journal, which she really doesn't want to do, but the therapist wants her to, so she does. And her family is a total mess. And anybody who was connected to her brother Tyler is basically not whole or happy. No one. Lex is a total mess. She's ended a relationship with her boyfriend because of Tyler's suicide, and we don't know why in the beginning. And there's a reason, but we don't know why. And then she begins to see Tyler in various places where they used to hang out, and she thinks she's going crazy. Is he a ghost, or am I just going nuts? And the interesting thing is she's one of the smartest kids in school. She's been accepted by MIT, but what she's trying to do is numb herself to her emotions. So she just kind of tries to not feel anything, and it doesn't work. So as the reader makes his or her way through the story, the reader will hear about a mysterious text on her cell phone. And it's only at the end that it reveals what this text was and what its importance was to the story. I found it riveting. I couldn't put it down, and I felt that all the emotions in the book were really real and true. The second book is called My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. And this book focuses on teen suicide from the perspective of a teen who wants to end her life. She's another super smart kid, but her father is in prison for murder, and she thinks she has inherited this disposition to kill, and so she's going to solve her problem by ending her life. So she finds a website devoted to creating partners who want to make a buddy pact kind of for suicide. And there she meets a boy named Roman who wants to end his life because of his role in his brother's death. So the pact that they make to support each other, they make it for a specific day in the future, and it takes them on an amazing journey. It helps them examine the value of life and the value of their life, and the question that readers will ask is, do they save each other? And you'll just have to read and see. So the reason I like to offer these as a pair is that both authors had personal experience with suicide, and so their experiences are brought into these books and makes them all that much more emotional, important, and true. Warga in particular adds resources for those who are in this position or who want to stop someone who is thinking about committing suicide. And I always like to think that if one person reads a book like this and chooses a different path, that the books have really done a good thing. So I invite you to read The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia Hand, along with My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. And that's all I have for you today. It's quite a list. Get reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye.